In the summer of 1878, the boisterous cowboys of Dodge City were introduced to a new entertainer. Her name was Dora Hand, but she performed under the name Fannie Keenan. She was a singer whose voice was as beautiful as her appearance, and quickly became popular among patrons. She left St. Louis and arrived in Dodge City to perform at the variety theaters. A friend of hers from St. Louis, Fannie Garrettson, was already in Dodge when Dora arrived, and the two began to share a small cottage near the Dance Hall Theater. Dora was a regular attraction at the Comique Theater, pronounced Comique by the Cowboys, and performed alongside the comedians Eddie Foy and Jim Thompson. The theater was said to be crowded night after night, Dora's voice being no small part. Dora also performed at Ham Bell's Varieties in August, and alongside Hattie Smith, the Dodge City Times described both. They are general favorites and will be sure to draw a crowded house. However, Dora was not constrained to Dodge City. She joined the Hernandez Comedy Company, which toured the towns of western Kansas, including Kinsley and Larned. When the cattle season in Dodge City died down, Dora returned to St. Louis. During her time as an entertainer in Dodge City, Dora Hand was separated from her husband, Theodore Hand. She finally decided to divorce him properly and returned to Dodge City to file the motion with her attorney, Harry Gryden. Once back in Dodge, she stayed with her friend Fannie Garrettson, like she always had. Unfortunately for her, this would spell her death. The cottage that Dora Hand and Fannie Garrettson slept in was owned by Dodge City Mayor James "Dog" Kelley. And on the night of October the 3rd, as Fannie Garrettson slept in the front room and Dora the back room of the small building, James Kelley became the target of an assassin. The assassin, a man by the name of James Kenedy, knew where Dog Kelley normally slept. What he didn't know was that Mayor Kelley wasn't even in Dodge that night. He was 5 miles away at Fort Dodge, seeing the doctor there. He also did not know that 2 innocent women were sleeping in the small building that he had targeted, one of which would be killed by his hand. The following are 2 newspaper articles that chronicle the death of Dora Hand, a beloved singer cut down too soon in life. From the Dodge City Times, Dodge City, Kansas, October the 5th, 1878. Another victim. The pistol does its work. The killing of Dora Hand, alias Fannie Keenan. At about 4 o'clock this Friday morning, 2 pistol shots were fired into the building occupied by Dora Hand, alias Fannie Keenan. The person who did the firing stood on horseback at the front door of the little frame south of the railroad track. The house has 2 rooms, the back room being occupied by Fannie Keenan. A plastered partition wall divides the 2 rooms. The first shot went through the front door and struck the facing of the partition. The remarkable penetration of a pistol ball was in the second shot. It passed through the door, several thicknesses of bed clothing on the bed in the front room occupied by a female lodger, through the plastered partition wall and the bed clothing on the second bed, and striking Fannie Keenan on the right side under the arm, killing her instantly. The pistol was of .44 caliber, nearly a half-inch ball. The deceased came to Dodge City this summer and was engaged as vocalist in the varieties and comique shows. She was a prepossessing woman, and her artful, winning ways brought many admirers within her smiles and blandishments. If we mistake not, Dora Hand has an eventful history. She had applied for a divorce from Theodore Hand. After a varied life, the unexpected death messenger cuts her down in the full bloom of gaiety and womanhood. She was the innocent victim. The pistol shot was intended for the male occupant of the bed in the front room, but who has been absent for several days. The bed, however, was occupied by the female lodger at the time of the shooting, and narrowly escaped the ball that went through the bed covering. The cause for the shooting is supposed to be for an old grudge. The officers are in pursuit of the supposed murderer, to whom circumstances point very directly. From the Ford County Globe, Dodge City, Kansas, October the 8th, 1878. Midnight Assassin. Dora Hand, alias Fannie Keenan, foully murdered while in bed and fast asleep. James Kenedy, the supposed murderer, arrested after receiving a dangerous wound at the hands of the officers. On Friday morning, about 4 o'clock, 2 shots were fired in a small frame building situated south of the railroad track and back of the Western House, occupied by Miss Fannie Garrettson and Miss Fannie Keenan. The building was divided into 2 rooms by a plastered partition, Miss Keenan occupying the back room. The first shot, after passing through the front door, struck the floor, passed through the carpet and facing of the partition, and lodged in the next room. The second shot also passed through the door, but apparently more elevated, striking the first bed, passing over Miss Garrettson, who occupied the bed, through 2 quilts, through the plastered partition, and after passing through the bed clothing of the second bed, struck Fannie Keenan in the right side under the arm, killing her instantly. The party who committed this cowardly act must have been on horseback and close to the door when the 2 shots were fired. From what we can learn, the shots were intended for another party, who has been absent for a week, and who formerly occupied the first room. Thus, the assassin misses his intended victim and kills another while fast asleep, who never spoke a word after she was shot. James Kenedy, who it is supposed did the shooting, made good his escape, and the following morning the officers went in pursuit of him, returning Saturday night with their prisoner, whom they met on refusal to surrender, shot him through the shoulder, and with another shot killing the horse which he was riding, thus capturing him. What evidence the authorities have that Kenedy is the man who did the shooting, we are unable to learn. Below, we give the verdict of the coroner's inquest. State of Kansas, Ford County, SS. An inquisition holden at Dodge City, in said county, on the 4th day of October, A.D. 1878, before me, a justice of the peace for Dodge Township, said coroner, acting as coroner, on the body of Fannie Keenan, there lying dead, by the jurors whose names are hereunto subscribed. The said jurors, upon their oath, do say that Fannie Keenan came to her death by a gunshot wound, and that in their opinion the said gunshot wound was produced by a bullet discharged from a gun in the hands of one James Kenedy. In testimony whereof, the said jurors have hereunto set their hands the day and the year aforesaid. P.L. Betty, foreman, John B. Means, J.H. Cornell, W. Strader, Thomas McIntyre, John Logheed. Attest, R.J. Cook, Justice of the Peace, acting coroner for Dodge Township, said county. Dora Hand was 34 years old when she was murdered. She was buried in Dodge City at the newly created Prairie Grove Cemetery north of town. On October the 11th, a letter was published in the St. Louis Daily Journal. It was a letter from Dora's friend, Fannie Garrettson, and I think it's fitting to end with what she wrote.
Poor Fannie. She never realized what was the matter with her. She never spoke but died unconscious. She was so when she was struck, and so she died. She closed her eyes as though she was going to sleep. The only indication of any pain were the moving of the head once or twice on the pillow. A few gasps, and her sufferings were over in this world. Peace be to her soul. I think she died happy, as her look was such. But what a horrible death, to go to one's bed well and hearty, and not dream of anything, and be cut down in such a manner, without a chance to breathe a word. She was killed between the hours of 4 and 5, and was buried yesterday between the same hours. Everything being done that could be, and every respect and honor shown to her to the last. The leading gentlemen of the city officiating at her funeral, and following her to her lonely grave. Well, I want to leave here now, when my life is safe. I think I've had enough of Dodge City.